completely different because they have some big decisions to make in free agency. Here are the player options: Bradley, AD, KCP, JaVale, Rondo. 5 more free agents: Dudley, Dwight, Markieff, J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters. Lakers GM Rob Pelinka was recently on the Woj pod and shared some insight on his approach to keeping the Lakers championship roster intact.
We hope that we can, have another championship run next year for sure, and we're going to work hard to try to keep the pieces around LeBron and AD, build pieces around LeBron and AD to do that. But also, again, if you study our cap, we have the flexibility to say, can we add another, really, really talented young player to run it out with AD if he chooses to stay as a free agent for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And there's been no letdown in LeBron's production. And I think so much of that is just a testament to the way he takes care of his body. And then he's one of the highest IQ players the game's ever seen. I mean, having 100 days in the bubble and being able to be in the film room every day because there's nothing else to do, so you're going to be with the guys. The way that he approaches and breaks down film, there were days in the film room where we would be walking from the film room over to practice, and he would be like, man, that was like 15 minutes. It was an hour. Do you think that was too long? Was it too heavy? And if LeBron was biased or heard us, be like, no, I love that stuff. Let's keep going. I mean, he's just, so mentally, like you said, he just attacks the opponent and picks the game apart with his size and his skill level and his mental IQ, and none of that is going away anytime soon. So, yeah, I think the runway is there, and we're going to continue to build around AD and LeBron for the years he has left, and then beyond that with AD.
Big decisions to make for the purple and gold this offseason. And speaking of decisions, Rajon Rondo will have one to make as well. Mark Stein reported this, guys, that the Clippers are interested in Rajon Rondo. And the Lakers want to re-sign him as well.
Oh, yeah.
Brez, that's not funny.
No, you're not.
That shouldn't be allowed, right, Brez?
Yeah, Mark Stein, I hope that's not a bad joke, because Rondo going to the Clippers after winning a title with the Lakers, you can't do that. Okay, I guess he could, but hopefully he stays with the Lakers. He was so valuable here, for his 2 seasons. Missed definitely some time during the regular season, almost 40% of the Lakers' schedule during his 2 years here, but came alive when he got back with the team in that second round of the playoffs. I would definitely like to see him stay because he really got that second unit under control. And he also got a lot of time with the first unit once he got back from that broken thumb and the bad back. And he was really instrumental in the Lakers winning number 17.
And BK, of course, we know no player has ever won a title playing for both the Lakers and the Clippers. Whew.
Well, yeah.
Just kidding. BK, how important was Rondo? How important was Rondo?
It's not the Lakers' fault. So I think he's very important for a couple of reasons. First of all, we all saw what he could do in the playoffs in terms of taking some of that ball handling pressure off of LeBron. There were moments where you could tell LeBron needed a break, or he was a little banged up, whatever it might be. You could give the ball to Rondo for a couple of possessions when LeBron didn't even touch it, and it can work out okay. The Clippers' threat to me is real, and because they're under a ton of pressure to get it right this season. I don't think there's any question about that. And they need the type of play that Rondo can provide. And Steve Ballmer is certainly the type of owner who is willing to overspend, overpay, do what it takes from a financial standpoint to get what he thinks he needs, particularly if it means stealing something from the team that you're chasing.
Perez, give me a free agent target you like for the Lakers.
Joe Harris, shooting guard. Brooklyn Nets. I mean, this is a guy who career 43% accuracy behind the arc. And, hey, the Lakers did it all. They were good. They obviously won the championship. Not a lot of big maneuvering coming for them, but if they can get a guy like Joe Harris, who made $7.5 million last season, we just don't know what the Lakers can offer him. He's 29 years old. Will it be the full mid-level of about $9 million or closer to what they call the mini mid-level of about $5 million? Depends on who stays and who goes. A lot of math to be done. What's the salary cap going to be? But they can give up the 3 years of a really good qualified shooter. By the way, he was second on the Nets in their playoff run, 16.5 points a game. He can score. And usually behind the arc, too.
Great call, Brez. Joe Harris would be an amazing fit.
Play with LeBron, too, for a little bit in his past.
Yeah, and AD. What about for you, BK?
I'm looking at it with a nod of like, what happens if a guy like Dwight leaves? And I think there's a good chance the Lakers could be priced out on him. Who do you go get to replace him? I like somebody like Aaron Baines, who was in Phoenix last season, former Celtic. I know you got to let that go, but it worked out okay with Rondo, right?
Sure did.
And what Baines does, he's not the same defender, particularly inside, as Dwight is, but he's active. He works hard. He's a good rebounder. He's a big physical presence. You can let him score down there a little bit, but mostly what he does is he changes the shape of the Lakers' offense as a center. You see these highlights of him on the outside, hitting three-pointers, about a 35% three-point shooter. You have to respect him out there. I think he's actually, in some ways, more playable in a lot of playoff series than Dwight is.
Yeah, he can shoot. That would be a big deal for the Lakers. If they can add as much shooting as they can, that would help.
BK, then AD would be dunking on him in practice instead of in games.
I mean, they already, he's a good energy guy. I think he would fit in with the culture that they have there very well. It's those types of players that I look at in terms of replacing the players who might leave, because adding huge pieces is going to be tough.
I wonder if he'll want to leave because of the new terrible uniforms they're going to have. Our director, Brian Bergen, he's the one Suns fan in the building. He's not happy with the direction.
How many, like the Suns are one of those teams that have like 26 different options. I'm not sure any of them are that good.
Do we even know their color anymore?
Orange-ish.
Yeah. Listen, we got some news for you. The show, we begin this edition of Access with some of the details discussed for the upcoming season. A lot of talk and a lot of chatter. These details first reported by Woj. The NBA is pursuing a 72-game season starting on December 22nd, putting games on Christmas Day and reportedly generating an extra $500 million in revenue for the league than if the season started in January. Chris Haynes sharing this report on Twitter. Substantial faction of players and star players pushing for NBA season to start January 18th, MLK Day, with a free agency commencement of December 1st. BK, talk to me. I know it makes financial sense, but if you're the Lakers or Heat or me, December 22nd seems early.
It is. It's real fast. What the NBA learned, though, in the bubble experience was you don't want your playoffs going anywhere near the NFL. And I think that's, they own the Christmas Day calendar. They own, springtime. And they want to get back to that schedule as quickly as they can, especially in light of the way the coronavirus is developing around the country. Cases seem to be rising again. And what used to be the idea, guys, was the NBA would sort of hold out, hoping that fans would be back in the building. You want to put it off as long as you can. Now it looks like even if you wait a little longer, that may not be a guarantee that fans will be able to be there in the same capacity. So if you can't have that, then what you really want is to get the calendar back as quickly as you can. And with all those hundreds of millions that you're talking about, Geeter, on the line, I think ultimately they come up with a way to play somewhere close to Christmas.
Yeah, Brez, when you think of the financial ramifications and the fact that the most important thing is getting back on track with the calendar, then it makes the most sense.
Yeah, this is about three things: money, money, and money. Okay, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Probably not going to be fans in seats in a month. I think we're all pretty comfortable predicting that. But still, you're going to have massive TV revenues, and that's a big deal to the team, to the league. And they're basically saying it's better to have the TV revenues, especially with that coveted Christmas Day spot, than to have ticket sales, on-site merchandise sales, concessions, parking, what have you, on a typical game day. It's all about the big-time TV contracts, and, I think it's going to happen.
Let me ask you this, President. BK, you jump in. You saw what Chris Haynes said, the reports about, some star players and players kind of pushing back, hoping for that MLK start date. One thing we have applauded Adam Silver in the league for is the fact that they listen to the players. They always come to the table, they discuss, and they find a common ground. Do you think that happens here?
Well, the players kind of want their cake and they want to eat it too, or whatever that phrase is. It's an amazing
Who
one.
doesn't, Brett?
Right. But here's the deal. The players also said they want to have their summers back. And in order to do that, you got to start the season a little more quickly than maybe they want to, if you want to play at least 70 games. You could start the season on MLK Day, which I think is a fine nod to a lot of these social justice things that we've been talking about for the last few months. But then you're only playing 60 or so games, and it goes back to TV money. And the players need to recognize that, I guess that's a big part of the pie for sure.
BK?
You know, it's interesting. Ethan Strauss at The Athletic had floated an idea that I think is kind of fascinating, where maybe you start on Christmas and you let Miami, the Lakers, Denver, Boston, maybe you give them an extra week and a half or 2 weeks and sort of stagger the beginning that way. The NBA is going to have to be creative. They're talking about limiting travel. Maybe the Lakers don't go to Boston this year. Maybe they don't go to Orlando. You play a more regional schedule. So there could be ways to kind of bring back some of that rest, even with the quick off season. It's going to be another unusual setup. Everybody's going to have to be kind of creative and give a little. But I suspect in the end, it's still going to start around Christmas.
Yeah, BK, if you're, Karl Anthony Towns or Zach LaVine, like, you're excited. You're like, all right, we haven't played since March. We're ready to go. But any other team, and many, 22 teams went to the bubble. But if you're on one of those 8 teams that didn't go, you're okay. But how about the Lakers and the Heat? They're going to be a little tired when things kind of start up, if they do, on December 22nd.
BK, I like the idea of not going to Orlando. Anthony Davis said he's not even going to go to Disney World for the next 15 years. So I think the Lakers would sign off on that one. All right, whenever